Christmas Day is supposed to be magical. Families gather, children laugh, and the cold winter night feels warmer with lights, gifts, and the comfort of tradition. But not every Christmas story is wrapped in joy. Some are soaked in terror. Picture this. It's December 25th in San Francisco. Parents are leading their kids through the zoo, couples are strolling hand in hand, cameras are flashing, and the air carries that mix of cold and celebration. Everyone believes they are safe, because the wild animals are behind bars, locked away by walls and moats and steel. But what if that belief was an illusion? What if the very creature you came to admire from a distance, a predator weighing more than 350 pounds, with muscles like coiled springs and instincts sharpened over millennia, decided the barrier wasn't enough? If you are ready to dive in it and interested in further incidents, go ahead and like the video and press subscribe button and press bell icon to stay updated. That night, 3 teenage boys walked into the San Francisco Zoo full of energy, laughter, and maybe a little mischief. By the time the clock ticked past 5 p.m., only 2 of them would stagger out, bloodied, broken, and forever haunted. The third would never go home again. And at the heart of it all, Tatiana, a Siberian tiger who proved that caging the wild doesn't erase the wild. Stay with me, because as we peel back this story, you're not just going to hear about a tiger attack. You're going to step into it. You'll feel the footsteps in the cold, hear the roar cutting through the silence, and face the chilling question the world still argues about. Who was truly to blame, the animal or the humans who failed to respect her power? To understand this tragedy, we have to rewind. Tatiana wasn't just any tiger. She was a Siberian tiger, one of the largest subspecies in the world. Think about that. An animal that can leap over 12 feet in a single bound, sprint up to 40 miles per hour, and crush bones with a single bite. She was admired by visitors, feared by keepers, and watched closely by animal experts. But here's the thing. Just 1 year before the Christmas Day attack, Tatiana had already shown the world that her instincts could not be contained. In 2006, during a routine public feeding demonstration, Tatiana lunged at a zookeeper and clamped her massive jaws onto the woman's arm. The crowd screamed as keepers scrambled to rescue her. The zookeeper survived, but the scar remained, both on her body and on the zoo's reputation. Now pause here for a second. Imagine you're running a zoo. One of your most powerful predators has already attacked once. Do you move her to a reinforced habitat? Do you double-check every wall, every barrier? Or do you assume it was a fluke and carry on? The San Francisco Zoo chose the latter. Tatiana stayed in the Tiger Grotto, a rocky enclosure surrounded by concrete walls and a dry moat. To visitors, it looked secure. But hidden in the design was a deadly oversight. The wall wasn't 16 feet high, the industry standard. It was just 12.5 feet, a difference of 3.5 feet. Small enough that many never noticed, but for a 350-pound apex predator, that difference was life and death. This is where psychology comes in. As humans, we trust institutions. We assume if something looks official, a zoo, a fence, a safety barrier, it must be safe. That trust is comforting, but it's also dangerous. Because sometimes the world isn't built as solidly as we believe. Tatiana paced her enclosure like she always did. Day after day, step after step, her amber eyes watching visitors lean over railings, laugh, toss food. She wasn't domesticated. She was waiting. And on Christmas Day 2007, she would prove it. Among the many visitors that day were 3 friends. 17-year-old Carlos Souza Jr., and brothers Paul and Culber Dhaliwal. Carlos was the kind of kid people remembered for his energy. He was young, restless, on the edge of adulthood, with dreams still forming and a family that loved him deeply. The Dhaliwal brothers, slightly older, carried that boldness of youth, joking, laughing, sometimes careless. Together, the trio wandered the zoo paths, pointing at animals, teasing each other, taking in the sights. And that's important, because at 22 or 27, you might remember what it felt like to be that age. Hanging out with friends, daring each other to be louder, bolder, a little reckless. You think you're untouchable. You don't expect life to flip in an instant. Witnesses later said the boys were standing near Tatiana's grotto, their voices echoing against the stone walls. Some claimed they might have been loud, maybe even taunting. Others weren't so sure. But one thing is clear. In that moment, the tiger's attention shifted. Now, here's where the storytelling slows down. Imagine the scene. The sun dips lower. Shadows stretch across the zoo. Parents are packing up strollers. Kids are yawning. Families are heading home. The energy of the day fades into the hush of evening. And in that quiet, a predator stirs. Inside the grotto, Tatiana's muscles coil. Her paws press into the cold ground. She paces, eyes fixed on the figures above her wall. To the boys, it's still fun, still laughter. To Tatiana, it's something else entirely. This is where suspense lives, in the gap between what the characters know and what we, as the audience, know. They were carefree, unaware they were already prey. And here's a question for you. If you were standing there that night, would you have noticed the shift? Or would you, like them, have laughed it off, trusting the wall to protect you? Then it happened. Around 5 p.m., as the boys lingered near the enclosure, Tatiana did the unthinkable. With explosive force, she leapt. Her claws scraped against the wall. Her body surged upward, and in a bound that defied belief, she cleared the barrier. In an instant, the illusion shattered. Imagine being there. One moment you're pointing at a tiger safely behind a wall. The next, she's on the ground in front of you, loose, furious, and ready to kill. Tatiana wasted no time. She locked onto Carlos Souza Jr. and pounced. The weight of 350 pounds crashed into him like a wrecking ball. Her claws tore through skin. Her jaws clamped down with crushing power. His scream echoed across the zoo, sharp, human, desperate. And then it was cut short. The Dhaliwal brothers froze in horror. For a heartbeat, they couldn't process it. Their friend was on the ground, a predator on top of him. Then panic kicked in. They grabbed rocks, sticks, anything they could find, hurling them, shouting, trying to distract the tiger. But Tatiana was locked in. She was no longer a zoo exhibit. She was a hunter. Blood stained the concrete as Carlos's struggle slowed, then stopped. This is where identity shifting hits you, because in that moment you realize cages and walls don't make predators less dangerous. They just give us the illusion of control. And if you'd been there, if you'd been Carlos or one of the brothers, what would you have done? The horror wasn't over. Tatiana lifted her head, blood dripping from her jaws, and fixed her gaze on the survivors. She released Carlos's lifeless body and began to stalk forward. The hunt had only just begun. The silence of Christmas night at the zoo was broken by screams. The Dhaliwal brothers stumbled away, one already bleeding from Tatiana's claws. Their breaths came in gasps. Their shoes slipped on cold pavement, their path leaving streaks of blood. Behind them, the tiger followed. Not rushing, not frantic. Methodical, patient, like she knew they couldn't escape. And here's the terrifying psychology. Humans are used to being the apex predator. We walk through cities, we lock our doors, we create systems that protect us. But when you're prey, your entire body reacts differently. Every sound feels amplified. Every shadow feels alive. The Dhaliwal brothers were no longer visitors. They were hunted. As they ran, other visitors heard the chaos. Some thought it was a fight. Others thought it was a prank. But then the roar cut through the night. Deep, guttural, primal. A tiger's roar. Panic spread. Families abandoned strollers, spilled drinks, ran for exits. Parents clutched children tighter, dragging them into the dark. The zoo, once a place of wonder, had become a trap. Now I want you to pause. Put yourself there. Imagine you came for a holiday stroll, and suddenly you hear a roar. People are screaming, fleeing. Would you run blindly for the exit? Or would you freeze, not wanting to believe it's real? By 5:08 p.m., 911 calls poured in. There's blood. A tiger is loose. People are dying. But for the Dhaliwal brothers, help was still minutes away. They were inside a maze of pathways and walls. Every turn felt like it might be their last. And every step behind them, the tiger closed in, steady and relentless. The zoo had become a nightmare, and the brothers were trapped inside. At 5:10 p.m., the first police units arrived at the zoo. Officers spilled out of their cars, weapons ready, radios buzzing with confusion. Was it a fight? A wild animal? Nobody knew for sure. Then one chilling call came through. The tiger is out of its cage. They pushed past terrified visitors rushing for safety. Inside, the zoo was eerily empty, shadows stretching long, the air carrying the echo of distant screams. Then they saw movement near the terrace cafe. The Dhaliwal brothers were huddled against a wall, covered in blood, trembling, their eyes wide with terror, their bodies barely able to stand. And just feet away, Tatiana. She circled slowly, muscles rippling, amber eyes glowing in the dim light. She wasn't retreating. She wasn't afraid. She was preparing to strike again. This was the climax. Time seemed to freeze. The brothers clung to each other, pleading for help, while the tiger lowered her head, tail twitching, every signal of an impending attack. Officers raised their rifles. One wrong move could cost another life. Then the silence broke. A shot rang out. Then another, and another. The bullets tore into Tatiana's body. She roared, a sound so primal it rattled the air, and then collapsed onto the pavement. The hunt was over, but the silence that followed wasn't relief. It was suffocating. A young man lay dead. 2 others were scarred forever. A magnificent animal was lifeless, and a city was left asking how it ever came to this. The investigation came quickly. Tatiana's enclosure wall measured 12.5 feet. The standard, 16.5. The zoo had cut corners or ignored warnings. Experts said the tragedy was preventable. But the story didn't stop there. Reports emerged suggesting the boys may have taunted the tiger, shouting, throwing objects, dangling legs. Some witnesses claimed it. Others denied it. No proof ever surfaced. So who was to blame? The zoo for ignoring safety? The boys for provoking? Or Tatiana for being exactly what she was, a predator? The controversy burned through the media. Headlines splashed across the globe. Parents were horrified. Animal rights activists defended Tatiana, arguing she was the victim of human arrogance. The public demanded answers. And beneath the noise were the families. Carlos Souza Jr.'s parents received a call no one should ever get. That their son was gone, his laughter silenced forever. For them, Christmas would never again mean joy. The Dhaliwal brothers survived, but with scars on their bodies and in their minds. Here's where identity shifting matters for us. Because if you're 22, 25, or 27, this story isn't just about a tiger. It's about illusion, the illusion that systems always keep us safe, that we can control nature, that tragedy only happens to other people. The truth? Safety is fragile. Boundaries fail. And when we forget that, the consequences are devastating. So as you leave this story, ask yourself, was Tatiana the villain? Or was she a victim too? Trapped in a world that never truly fit her? 3 boys entered the zoo that Christmas night. 2 lived, scarred forever. 1 never came home. And a tiger proved that when humans cage the wild, the danger doesn't disappear. It waits. If the story hit you hard, don't just scroll away. Share it because stories like this remind us. Life isn't guaranteed, and the boundaries we trust may not be as strong as we think.